Welcome to Thursfields Talk Legal. This is a new series of podcasts from one of the leading law firms in the Midlands. I'm Steve Dyson. I'm the journalist who's going to talk to a range of solicitors at Thursfields over the next few weeks on legal topics of wide interest to the public or businesses. Please bear with us as all recordings are carried out remotely, online, to make sure that we keep to the government's current stay-at-home advice during COVID-19. Today's episode is all about making a will, and I'm going to talk to Deborah Beal. Now, Deborah is an associate solicitor in the Wills and Estates Department at Thursfields. Hello to you, Deborah.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for inviting me to join you today.
No problems at all. Deborah, making a will is something so many of us never get around to. Recent research, for instance, reveals that 40% of property owners have never made a will. Why are they so important?
They're really important to make sure that your assets go to the people you would want them to, and to make sure that your loved ones are financially looked after when you're not here to do that anymore. For people who don't make a will, they're entirely dependent on the government-made rules of intestacy, which can also be considered to be fairly out of date. They can have unintended consequences. So, for example, if you lived with your partner but you weren't married, your partner would be entitled to nothing under the rules of intestacy. So it's much better to make a will so that you can make sure that your wishes are carried out.
Oh, I understand. But one of the reasons, of course, that people delay will making is because it's just simply not something we're used to. And it feels like quite a complex thing to do. Is it difficult?
No, we try to make it as easy as we possibly can for our clients. So we start off by sending them a questionnaire out. Now, our clients seem to really like that because it means they can get prepared for the questions that we're going to ask them and the kind of information they need to put together. Then we'd have a meeting with them and we can talk through their particular circumstances and see what they need to do and what they want to achieve with their will. So then once we've done that, we would draft the will, send it out to them to have a look at and check over they're happy with everything. And then we discuss it through with them in a fair amount of detail to make sure they're comfortable with it and make sure it gets signed off so that it's a legally binding document.
Okay, well, you've made it sound relatively simple, but another aspect that people have or worry about is the cost of making a will. I mean, how expensive is it?
It's really not as expensive as I think people fear. So, for example, wills with us start from £270 plus VAT. In total, that comes out at £324. So in the context of making sure that your assets pass to who you would want them to, it's not a significant expense in the modern day and age. Obviously, for people who've got more complicated lives or businesses, it might be they want something more sophisticated. But we've got in place a clear schedule of fees. We talk to all of our clients about that before they even have the meeting. And once we've had the meeting, we're normally able to confirm a fixed fee for them.
Again, that sounds quite reassuring, but it all sounds so time consuming. I mean, how much time does it take?
It doesn't take that much time, particularly from our client's perspective. So once we've had that initial chat with them to find out what they want to do, we try and get our wills out to them so that they can have a look at it within 2 weeks. Then once they've had a chance to do that, we can set up the appointment to make sure it all gets signed off, again, pretty swiftly after that. So in an ideal world, you'd be looking at a few weeks to make your will.
At the moment, of course, many of us have got more time to focus on things like wills because of the pandemic and lockdown. But when the restrictions of the current crisis prevent us from actually making a will because we can't see you and your colleagues face to face?
No, actually, the industry as a whole has found that there have been an awful lot more inquiries, as unfortunately, in certain times have made people think a lot more about their mortality and making sure they've got the necessary documents in place. So we at Thursfields have adapted our procedures to make sure that we can help our clients as much as possible through this procedure. So we're making sure we're taking full use of technology. We're making sure that we're having video calls with clients so that we can do the best we possibly can without having a face-to-face meeting, and actually we're finding that's working really well. We've also got technology in place now to make sure we can do identity checks and things like that online instead of having to get certified documents or for them to drop in original documents to us. So we found that that side of things is all pretty straightforward, as much as we can possibly make it. The one thing that clients do still need to do though is they still actually have to physically sign their will, and they have to have 2 witnesses who are able to see them sign it. Now that's the thing that they're consulting on at the moment, but those rules are still the rules we're stuck with at the moment, so we can't do anything about that. But what we are doing is we're making sure that we're talking to all of our clients about this, assessing the situation they're in, and then advising them about how they can execute the will in a safe manner and making sure they stay in accordance with the government guidelines.
Okay, that sounds sensible. I guess there's neighbours and there's fences and there's paths in the front garden, aren't there? So there's all sorts of ways people
and
can
even
do
through
that.
the window.
Yeah, okay. You've certainly convinced me that it's worth doing, and it's something which people should have in mind. But for anyone out there wanting to make their will, what are the next steps?
So if they'd like to do that with us, we have a lady who's dedicated to taking all of our new inquiries. She's a lovely lady called Rachel, and you can get in touch with Rachel by calling 01905 677 045. That's 01905 677 045, and Rachel will take some initial details and get an appointment set up.
That sounds great. Deborah Beal, the Associate Solicitor in the Wills and Estates Department at Thursfields. Many thanks for joining us on Thursfields' first Talk Legal.
Many thanks for inviting me, Steve.
Hopefully what Deborah had to say about making a will is something that people in the local community will find useful. We'll be back soon to talk to another legal expert here at Thursfields about another interesting aspect of the legal world. Thursfields Talk Legal. Thanks for listening.